This is Canucks Only.
This is Canucks Only.
Here's your host, Rob Young.
Derek, how's it going?
Good.
So another episode of Canucks Only. Shiloh is off on vacation to Italy for the month. So something I've been wanting to do for a while is have a guest co-host. And today, Derek, my brother, joins me, and something we've talked about for a while. And, you know, Derek, I've always been impressed with your hockey knowledge when we've chatted in the dressing room and in and around the Canucks. And you have a deep knowledge of hockey, and I've always been impressed with some of your takes and good thinking and good strategies around what's happening with our beloved Canucks. So welcome to the show. And so basically we'll just jump right in. And what I wanted to know is, based on last year and based on the previous year of losing to Edmonton in the playoffs, with the expectations of that year, you know, Silovs capping off the year, DeSmith, Demko getting injured, and we roll into last year, 2024, 2025. What's your takeaways? What's your general impressions? How are you feeling with all the things that happened last year? And then why don't we kind of start it off with, obviously, the drama of Miller and Pettersson?
Thanks for having me. I don't proclaim to be an expert on much in terms of hockey, but I am a long-suffering Canucks fan. So I do have that. I've watched a lot of the games. And I've also won 5 of the 5 Yahoo fantasy hockey pools in 12 years before the league dissolved that I was in.
Instant credibility.
Yeah, I guess so. So yeah, the first question just about last season in general, or starting with Miller?
Yeah, like how do you, what's your feelings coming out of last year? Obviously a lot happened. And so specifically with let's talk about the Miller and Petey drama, and sort of there's 3 stages of it. There's the Miller taking a leave of absence, then the little bit of trickle of not even news, but rumors and hints of news. And then, performance wise, both Miller and Petey didn't do very well. And then Miller getting traded. So there's really 3 stages to talk about, and what you really remember, how you felt about that.
Right. Well, I was hopeful at the beginning. I thought that, I put a lot of, responsibility on the management, on how Rutherford, Alvin, and Tocchet handled that situation. Because I know I think the common narrative is it was a Petey Miller thing, but to me, it was an organizational. It was more of a spotlight on how the organization got that one wrong. Mm-hmm. Because, I think it was pretty obvious that Petey was playing injured. Mm-hmm. I don't think he ever looked right. They said it was tendonitis. It could have been a lot of different things. They also said he might have screwed himself up at that All-Star game. So that was like the beginning of his statistical decline. Mm-hmm. I love Miller, but that's now, I think, the second time he's gotten himself traded off a team because he can't control his emotions. Right. So, and knowing the history of Miller, you would think the management team wouldn't leave it to a first-year captain, or was it second-year captain? I'm not sure if it was Quinn's second or first year. It doesn't really matter, but that's not really the dynamic you want to put him to play referee in between as well. Right. And I think I told you this before, like the dynamic that worked well was when, you had Ian Cole on the team. You had Zadorov at the end there. You had, you had some more veteran presence. You had DeSmith, I think, to a certain degree. And that was enough to kind of keep somebody like Miller, in line for the most part. I think that's a guy who's a true competitor. You've seen it in, his playoffs. He's like, plays with his heart on his sleeve. He's a very emotional player. So, almost beating Edmonton and then wanting to go have a good start to last year. I could see where he's coming from. But obviously not making room for PD being, quote, out of shape or whatever it was. And, for some inexplicable reason, having the management team to let it be a player's, let the players settle it was, I think, a black mark on, basically the year of how bad the management looked that year. They looked, in my opinion, they looked bad. I mean, the whole team looked bad, but my opinion is always starts from the top.
Right. And so there was little pieces of news and nothing. Well, there's more news now post, the season being over. And there's some good articles out there sort of documenting the timeline. There was pieces of information that surprised me that, like you were saying, management sort of tapped the in-room leadership, including Miller and Hughes, to try and quote unquote fix Petey. And so something happened. They don't know what. There's only rumors of that. But did you catch any more news, like how it became? It sort of evolved, and this didn't hit the press until. It was there, but it was very quiet, or not very well publicized. Where it became a Tocchet Miller issue. Yeah. Hence the benching against Nashville. Did you catch any of that? And
yeah,
does that affect how you feel about the scenario?
Well, like I said, I do look at it as a management coach failure, primarily. And I always thought that, Tocchet would have had a better handle on a player like Miller, because he does need, it's very clear he needs some insulation. You can't let him go off by himself, because he operates at 100%. And, you will burn out. Either you'll run out of, your teammates tolerating that, or you'll mentally burn it out. Right. So, I always thought that one of the upsides of having Tocchet around was he's an old school tough guy. Right. Who played very similarly. So they should be able to speak the same language. And it really didn't seem like they were at the end. End of their little relationship before the trade. So yeah, that was, to me, a failure going from Rutherford to Alvin to Tocchet, right? Because between those guys, they should know enough about the player history, the player tendencies, the team dynamics, team chemistry. Just seemed like everybody was on different pages. And that's the summary of how I would sum up the Canucks season too. Everybody was on being on different pages. Quinn's playing at a unreal generational level pace, and dominating the ice when he's out there, and trying so hard that he gets injured, and that puts the team on the back heel. And Petey trying to play through an injury, or the pressures of the big contract. That's another one. And then Miller, tasting they almost got to the Western Finals, and I'm sure that was pretty evident in his, mindset going into the season. But that's not, you look at a team like Florida, everybody's paddling in the same direction, right? And that's the killer with any team, I think, is if you have everybody kind of just going off, like everybody was very clearly like deferring to Quinn last year. I would like to see that stop to a certain degree. And then, Miller was free, in my opinion, to kind of run the way that he wanted to. And I don't think that was true the season before that.
Which is surprising given Tocchet, like what you said. They should know better, old school player. I'm a transformational coach. What's the right word? There's a different word I'm thinking of. He's really evolved. Tocchet for me was really the evolution of the modern coach in a brilliant way, like in incredible ways. And yet, if he lost Miller, from what some of the articles were saying, that Miller wasn't responding like he was when he took over from Boudreau and really got Miller under the reins and got the most out of him. So it became this, like you're saying, systemic problem from the organizational and management side, because an unfettered Miller is obviously not good.
Yeah, he's like a heat-seeking missile. You need a guidance system for that. I think the analogy I would put is, Tocchet's a good coach, but like all things, I think it's not as simple as just picking the most modern system and applying it to your team. You have to build the team with the system. And, you could see in games against some of the top contenders in the league last year, the Canucks did really well. They played low event defensive structured hockey, but it's not a system that sets you up for success over a 82 game grind. It also depends that I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's close to how Florida structures their some of their systems. And that's a very speedy transitional game.
Mm-hmm.
And it works when you have Quinn Hughes. And if it doesn't work great when everybody else is chipping it off the boards, then you get frustrated because that's a hard type of hockey to play.
Yeah, he said that his system is so similar to Florida.
Yeah. And
he justified that on TV before he got his new gig, that Florida plays his system, but even at a higher degree of chipping it in than he would.
Yeah. Well,
so he was quite proud of that.
Yeah, that's great if you got it right. But I don't think it necessarily was realistic in the sense of how the Canucks were built. They're a slower team. It's you have to be fast and you have to play hard on the forecheck.
Yeah.
And if it's not working and you don't have the speed or the personnel to pull it off, and you're killing yourself over a pace that's not sustainable, I don't know if that's the winning formula. I think that's a luxury only a few teams get to rest their whole foundation approach to hockey on.
Right.
And that's the danger of being in that weird middle part of the league. And I think also it's not realistic. It's not realistic with like how your wingers, especially the Canucks wingers, they could try to tweak the formula, get bigger, but they weren't fast. So when you don't have fast wingers that can go and get the puck out like Florida can, it's hard to play that game because it's tiring. That means every turnover going the other way from the offensive zone, that you're 2 players behind, and they're doing 180 foot backward skate. You do that. It's a tough league.
Yeah.
So, it's not making an excuse for conditioning. It's just more like that's a really, I don't know how that system gets you into the playoffs without being pretty exhausted and banged up.
Okay.
So that's always been my concern. And so it's great for Tocchet to say it. It's another thing to actually pull it off, right?
Yeah.
And there's a gap between where you're going to always start in terms of the plan and what the on-ice results yield. And he wasn't good, in my opinion, at least to my satisfaction, about modifying the plan accordingly.
Right.
And I think the one thing that stood out last year that really bugged me was, they acknowledged the power play was letting them down. Tocchet looked at, he was going to take a bigger part on it. And then they promised to make some adjustments. And I don't know what their reasoning was afterwards, but they didn't improve on it. And again, maybe you can, but I think it's unfair to pin the hopes and dreams of the power play success on Quinn Hughes, especially with all the other talent you have there. And then you see this because Quinn's so much better skater than everyone else. Everybody starts puck watching. The more watching you do in hockey, even if you're playing at like the beer league level that we played, the more watching you do, the less engaged you are in the game.
Totally. That's a good call. Yeah. And that's totally true. It's 100% true.
And you can see that if you're not fast and you're not going to be totally engaged, because especially on the power play, your zone entries are a little suspect without Quinn doing it, right? So Quinn now has to compensate, and the coaches aren't really adjusting with that, right? So then Quinn gets overworked, Quinn gets tired, Quinn can't evade, collision and contact like he does before. Quinn gets hurt. That was the recipe Edmonton and Nashville did against Quinn Hughes in the playoffs, 2 playoffs ago. Yeah. So if you're management and you're watching that, I wouldn't, I wouldn't stick to my guns. I would probably try to have a couple of different looks and be doing temperature checks, because hockey is a game about momentum, and it's not always going to be the way that you draw it up. That's like my uninformed take, right? I think like that happens over periods, like when they're doing in-game adjustments, right? But
right.
I think you should have a couple of different options for the general structure without having to start it from like again, I've never gone through the hockey systems, but you don't have to like boil it down to the foundations. But right. I don't think that it should all run through one guy, though.
No,
I don't
not
think
at
so.
all. Not in. It was obvious that Quinn got tagged a few times in the Edmonton series 2 years ago. So, he is catchable. If the pieces aren't moving the way they need to for the breakouts, people are catching little pieces of him here and there.
Yeah, especially if you're a bigger guy. I mean, just watch what Kane did to him in the playoffs. You just have to widen your stance, and you want to take him out with your legs. You can catch Quinn Hughes with a trip. You can take a penalty, but you trade it off.
Right.
That's the thing about, I think, playoff hockey, that everybody complains about the officials and the penalties in the playoffs, but people don't understand that to do what Florida does is they play the game of attrition. So that's why I talk about the Talkett's regular season system is like you are starting at 80% maybe, and now you're about to enter what you hope is about 3 months or 2.5 months of attrition. Right. It's not a beautiful game. It's a bit of a brawl, and you're trying, and it's not about winning the shift always. Sometimes it's about just taking a chunk out of somebody so that the next time that they see you, there's a mental doubt. It's a mental game. And that's where, if the mental game is already off the handle by, I don't know what game it was when Miller and PD had kind of done this thing. That was like maybe the first third of the season. Like that's a hard one to ever come back.
Yeah, totally. No, you're right, because the Paul Maurice, I think it was last year, they clipped him yelling on the bench to say, hit the guy in the corner, because by game 7 they have nothing left. So that's exactly what you're saying. And also I remember going way back when we had Sandlak and Momesso, and we used to pound Phil Housley into the corner because they were both 6'3" and 6'4", and Phil Housley was, I don't know, was he even 5'10"? But he was crushed. I mean, he was kind of the Quinn Hughes prototype back then in a different era. But he, exactly what you said, he lost all confidence by game 3 or 4, and he was scared to handle the puck because he was getting punished so badly.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I think a lot of the people who only watch hockey or, just kind of casually follow hockey, I don't think they understand where, like, there's amateur level stuff, there's beer league, but then at the NHL, like the force that those guys are hitting, like just go to a hockey game and sit in the front row somewhere and feel the glass when they're trying to, and that's regular season stuff, right?
Right.
So by the time the playoff is happening, they're trying to kill each other out there.
Yeah.
And everybody hates Florida, but it's not a gentlemanly thing, because you don't win it. It's soccer. Like, you don't win it like by playing the beautiful game. It's a brawl.
Exactly. I was going to say that it's a brawl. You used that word earlier, and that's the exact right word. So moving out of the drama, out of the performance, what is your takeaway and impressions of Rick Tocchet's time here? Obviously choosing not to re-sign here. That is one of the only times I've seen that there's an option, and I think it was a club option, and then a coach walks away. I mean, Maurice did it recently. And before that, I was struggling to remember a coach who walked away from the, even the last year of their contract. Even though I think there was just an option. I have to double check what that exactly meant. But what's your takeaway, impressions and thoughts on Tocchet not coming back and signing with Philly?
Like, I think the minute that Tortorella got fired from there, like, Tocchet was just counting the days down at that point. I think certain roles open up, and they're just better fits. So I think, I think he was a positive. He was definitely a positive. There was definitely a honeymoon period there. I think he was able to get some of the structure there was definitely some structure issues that during the Boudreau era was very evident. I think, and then it got a little too structured. I think like that's kind of the point I was trying to make earlier is, when you can almost see it when the pros they know somewhere inside that like it's not totally a perfect fit, and they spend too much time thinking, and they're not relying on some of their hockey sense and they're very obvious talents, right? Like that's the thing about hockey, is like they're also talented, but when they have sometimes you see coaches like Boudreau's like this far end of it where they play whatever hockey you want, and then you end up with pond hockey. But I feel like the Canucks with Tocchet, and they need to come back somewhere, a little bit closer to the middle, maybe a little closer, more to structured than right in the middle. And that was good. But then when I watched last season and things weren't going well, it was like an over reliance on the structure because the team wasn't playing well. Like a combination of systems and overthinking. Yeah. There's a lot of psychology I feel like was going on there. But yeah, that first season, the defense turned around night and day. That was great. But then one of the things that's like, I shrug my shoulders about Tocchet leaving is, you look at his time in Arizona, almost all the forwards under his tenure had career lows, right? Like Clayton Keller. Keller looked like just a guy. And he's one of the most talented forwards around, right? And he was struggling, right. And so when I look at that, and so much like we were talking about Miller having a track record, I think Tocchet has a track record, and he gets a little too technical, and I think he thinks that it's weird because you look at the way he plays. Maybe it's very simple for him because he just plays like a smash mouth style, like you just go from the net, you just go in the corner, or you just do this, but I think a good coach is going to kind of work with strengths that they have and not force it from top down, because it just becomes inorganic. And I think a really good coach focuses on the personnel and the adjustments on, like how many times did he spend practices or extra practices with Petey trying to change the player that Pettersson is? To me, that's at first it sounded okay, and then as it kept on happening, and then the results weren't there either, then that was more of a red flag than anything. So everybody else thinks, oh yeah, he cares so much, and it's like, well, is the message even the right message? Yeah, and I think again, from viewing outside, well, we don't have all the information, but to me, it didn't seem like that was the way to do it.
Yeah, and what you're saying about Tocchet's track record, he doesn't have a very long coaching tenure anywhere. And so, for me, the contract was surprising how much that's paying for potential. And two, he didn't have many results to speak of, to fall back on, and to also get that contract.
He has the reputation, and I think in the hockey world that they overvalue people who are good, who can give a good quote, or who are just good in front of a camera. I think he's a very good he's a good communicator. Yeah, that was a thing that they really sold him on, was his communication skills. Yeah, so I wouldn't take that away from him. I just think that you need to be more tactical and strategic. I think that's like the calling card of a good coach. Yeah. And we're talking about, if I look this up, there was one season where Rick Tocchet in the 2019-2020 Arizona Coyotes, Clayton Keller had 44 points in 70 games.
It's crazy, because he's my guy in my long-term pool, so I've always been watching Keller too. That killed me.
And just last season, Clayton Keller had 90 points. The season before that, 76. The season before that, 86. So like again, I like Tocchet. I thought he brought, some good structure and kind of a reset on the never-ending carousel of coaching and management decisions.
Yeah.
But I look at, I would think that there's a lot more to give on the offense side going into next season. That's one thing that leaves me a little bit hopeful. Because like the results that Tocchet has, they're okay, but
yeah, they're nothing to speak of to get that contract. And, I guess more that's probably my biggest thing is that I would have loved Tocchet to stay, but I think in talking comprehensively, structure, PD's performance, all the things, I don't think it was super positive if he did stay. And so I'm going to miss Tocchet, the coach, and the quotes and the potential. But like you're saying, the results were less than desired. That's for sure.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the results are the only thing that really matter in hockey. You're either going to produce or not. And, he had a great first season with the Canucks, or sorry, not first season, follow-up season, or his first full season. But yeah, like that's the farthest he's ever been in the playoffs was with that team. And that team, by the way, was on like a historical heater in terms of everybody's shooting percentage, right? So
yeah,
I would unfortunately last season is where the statistical averages start averaging.
Yeah, and take the outlier out,
and it's not great.
So you're saying that PD's going to have a bounce back season now that Tocchet's not here?
Yes.
Is that your prediction?
Yeah, that is my prediction.
A la Clayton Keller.
I'll take that. I'll take that one. That would not be too bad.
Speaking of coaching and coaching systems, what's your thoughts on Adam Foote? Are you happy? Are you not? Would he have been your pick?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I always kind of like with coaches, I don't put too much effort on analyzing the before. Spend a little more time on the after. I think Adam Foote, from what I've read, it seems reasonable. Was he the best candidate? I don't know. Right? I don't know who they talked to. There's some good coaches out there too, right? So, I think part of this was again the management's overwhelming desire for stability in a very unstable market, unstable franchise. Yeah, to me that's and the other part is I think keeping Quinn Hughes happy. He spoke really highly of him, so that's good. But hockey players are biased, so
right. How much do you think that played into the future of Quinn Hughes, which we'll talk about towards the end of this episode, in keeping Quinn happy? How much do you think of a factor? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. A lot. I think a lot.
And do you think that was the right call?
And I mean, if you don't have Quinn Hughes, then you're talking about a drastically different team. So I understand the logic behind it.
Right. Yeah, and I agree with you. I think the factor of Quinn saying that Tocchet and Foote are two of the best coaches he's ever had, in keeping Quinn Hughes happy, in keeping Quinn Hughes a Canuck, this is a card that had to be played, in my mind. I don't think there was much choice. For all the debate between Malhotra and then winning the Calder Cup, for all intents and purposes, Manny Malhotra and Adam Foote have the exact same head coaching experience in the NHL.
Right.
So for me, the dice roll, the card played of Adam Foote is way more favorable in my mind than Malhotra. And I think Malhotra could be potentially a good coach. I think he could be, I don't know, like as a Canuck fan, Malhotra is a player, someone who's in our system, you hate to potentially lose that potential. But I think Foote was the absolute right call for me, because I've been with the hashtag on X is all roads lead to Quinn Hughes for the next 18 months in my mind. And until you reach that hill, the top of that hill called Quinn Hughes and his contract, I think it was the only reasonable play in my mind.
I think the Vancouver Canucks would agree with you.
Yeah. So I don't mind it at all. I, again, didn't really want to see Taka go, but in hindsight, I think as you went over your points, it solidified the general feeling that was probably the best thing. And Taka had his own reasons that he talked about on social media and other shows. There were some personal factors as well, but I'm sure that the whole drama playing out didn't help. But I thought he might have gone to New York. I thought there was a chance when that opened up, but Sullivan got in there quick, and then Philly became obviously the choice.
I would say that with there's no way him and Miller ever probably end up on the same team together. I don't think.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah, and I hadn't really, I had thought the reverse. That's what was probably top of my mind, that he would enjoy a different scenario with Miller again. But I think you're right. I think that's probably the real deal, where that bridge has been burned.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of those things where it's like a trust, it's the broken trust in each other, even, I would think, right? It's not even like a one way.
Yeah. It's a broken relationship. So moving out of the season, the disappointment, let's talk about some of the moves the Canucks have made this summer. And we didn't really, when I texted you earlier, didn't really mention this one, a couple of them. So I might catch you by surprise on some of them. But let's first talk about Evander Kane. What are your thoughts on signing Kane? Actually, trading for Kane and trading. I mean, we didn't give a lot away for him, but what's your general sense of that whole situation of bringing Kane here?
I think, they've been, Vancouver's been linked to Kane for, I don't know how many seasons now it's been. So I think he was legitimately injured last season. His analytics, I think even with that injury at 34, it's an upgrade over Joshua. Yeah, he wants to be here. So that, I think there's people discount that all the time. They talk about stuff that's happened in the past. That stuff's in the past. He's a good player.
Yeah,
he was really good for them in the playoffs. He scored some big goals. Positional need. He's faster than I think a lot of people give him credit. Much faster than Joshua.
Yeah.
Even at 34. So I think people were freaking out over the cap hit, but that's the price you get for. He's a legitimate, top 6 forward for the Canucks. So he would, redacted his name, shown his stat line, and said the cost of what it would cost to acquire him. I don't know if anybody would have said anything but great.
Yeah, that's a good point. He is fast. He's talented. He's a unique entity in the NHL. Hockey Night in Canada said that about him in the playoff run. When he and Nugent Hopkins were going in, I think it was round 3, the Oilers looked unstoppable. They finally had depth that wasn't there before, the season before, and it wasn't McDavid and Draisaitl doing everything. They had a supporting cast, and they were effective because Nugent Hopkins, I have him in my pool, and so he was getting points all the time. And then I had thought about picking up Kane because he was available, but he for the playoffs, and I thought, wow, these guys are playing great, and they look unstoppable. If they keep going, I think they have a legitimate chance. Now, they both stopped playing well at the same time, and I found that, I don't know the hows and whys, it didn't really matter to me. At that point, Florida looked incredible. I mean, they are the new model. They are the new Boston Bruins from 2011 in 2025. But I agree with you. Kane replaces some of what Miller can do, and he replaces all of what Joshua can do. My question to you then is, would you have preferred to have Joshua and Kane in the same lineup?
I would have. I think that would have been pretty cool. that's a pretty solid size and talent on the wing. But the Canucks again continue to struggle with the salary cap for the millionth different reason.
Yeah.
So it's too bad because I think the team would have been better if they could have had both of them on the roster. But there's like you said, a certain amount of overlap. Kane's an upgrade. Looking forward to seeing what he does.
Yeah, Kane has a good shot as well. He showed it a couple times in the playoffs, but he's always had a great shot, and he can replace that shot for Miller in that same spot in the low left circle because his shot is very good as well. So, sorry, you going to say something?
Nope.
So, Joshua goes. The next set of moves before we talk about Boeser re-signing is the 3 goalie logjam that they cleared up with Silovs. What's your takeaway? What's your feeling on sending Silovs away to solve the goaltending logjam?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I think he had a great Calder Cup run. Definitely, probably too good for the AHL. I think. I think you could look at the last couple of goalies who won Calder Cups, though, and you're not. I think he was playing against one of them, or no, that was Kaapo Kähkönen. But anyways, like the last couple of goalies who won the Calder Cups, they're not in the NHL.
Right. For me, also, if you watch Silovs, some of those highlights, some of the goals he let in, he was letting the same long shots from near the blue line.
Yeah. I didn't like how he started the season. That was clearly still an open question on what that looks like in the NHL. It's not going to get easier.
Right.
So, yeah. And, everybody, again, overvalues what goaltenders are going to return on a trade. So, it's not great. It's, is it probably market average? Sure.
Yeah. Compared to the Columbus, Florida deal, I can't remember the goalie's name off the top of my head. They sent him for a 5th round pick and we got a 4th. And so we did a little bit better. He's actually a little bit higher rated than Silovs. He's a couple years older, but based on that, which happened the week before, we did better on a return. So you're okay with it. I am as well, because I think Silovs still was unproven in the NHL and we have different problems to solve, and bringing in, a Demko Silovs or a Lankinen Silovs combination there aren't a lot of guarantees on that, right? So if you start chalking up a few losses based on any of the reasons of any of the 3 of them, any of the combination of the 3 of them. So, what we have with Demko, Lankinen, or, like I said, Demko, Silovs, Lankinen, Silovs, it's another unknown. And so that for me doesn't fit what they're trying to do, which is the all roads lead to Quinn Hughes problem with the foot and Quinn Hughes' contract, et cetera, et cetera. So I think for me, I'm totally fine with it as well. It's always hard to look. Canuck fans always overvalue our own assets. Everyone falls in love with their players, and that's where some of the problems begin. But I think based on the market, like you said, and based on that other deal, did you find that goalie's name? I can't remember his name.
Yeah, no, I didn't find it.
Yeah. Anyways, based on that deal, we did fine. And I think it just resolves a unknown that didn't need to be part of the problems that we have.
Yeah, he's a good tournament goalie. So, you would like to see what he could have done, but it's
right.
You got to get into the playoffs first.
Right. So moving on to a couple, our last handful of topics here. Brock Boeser re-signing. Is that how are you feeling about Boeser returning to the Canucks?
Pretty good. I'm a big Boeser fan. Again, he doesn't fit with the type of game that Tocchet was trying to play, though. Like he's the opposite of a speedy forechecker.
Right.
But he's a super solid, talented player. I wish he didn't get hurt early on in his career, because I would love to see what the original version of Boeser with the shoot first mentality was pretty awesome to see.
Yeah.
the all around Swiss Army knife Boeser is still great. Like he wants to be here, so that's a thing. And I think it's there probably would have been a very large hole to fill if Boeser didn't come back on the team. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah, wants to be here, still a sniper, using the right spots, can contribute. Did you catch any of the interview that he did with Canucks Faber after he resigned?
I didn't catch all of it. I think there was a bit of just like how he had kind of thought that wasn't going to happen. But yeah, I didn't watch the whole thing.
Right. So there was a couple things, and that was part of what I was going to ask you. So based on that, I mean, it sounds like it came down to not just the last minute, but obviously almost past the deadline. So in your mind, what do you think the Canucks were trying to do with the UFAs that were out there, based on the names that were out there? If you need to pull up a list, do that for, the Granlunds, Ehlers.
I think I had heard a bunch about them being interested in Ehlers because there's a speed upgrade there, and he's a very good player too. But I don't think that was ever realistic. So
right,
yeah, like they're in a weird spot now where they're not the marquee, and for very for a few reasons that they have under their control, the instability around the franchise. Definitely doesn't help people wanting a sign here. And then the Rutherford, Alvin, quick to move on from their mistakes, which is good from a team management standpoint, but not great from a confidence builder if you're going to sign there as a free agent. Right. So I don't feel like they've done themselves any favors. And I wasn't a fan of how they kind of went about the process. I could say there are a lot of things. So yeah, I'm happy he's back. I think it would have been nice if they settled that because it seemed like they hadn't made up their mind, or they had made their mind up about something else. And then had they go to plan B, and that's not great either. Like if you're going to sign somebody to that little contract and then like, congratulations, you're our second pick. That's, I think you should run your organization with a little bit more integrity. If that's true, right? It might not be true, but the optics of almost everything of last season, the optics overruled maybe everything that was actually accurate and fair. So yeah, like they could have made a lot of things easier. The Boeser re-signing. And speculation over the season, that was definitely way up there.
Yeah, totally. And I 100% agree. And you're reminding me of things that I had kind of pushed into the realm of like, I don't want to think about this anymore. But yeah, there was a lot of bad taste. There was some bad PR. And then to push it so far, I mean, for Brock to be that happy to come back, I am super happy about.
Yeah.
And one of the things I thought of, I didn't have any information, but was more of a feeling, is that in the Quinn Hughes saga, is he a buddy of Quinn Hughes, like a good buddy? But it turns out that Garland, and that was what happened in the Faber interview, that Garland's like every day was texting him, texting Boeser, saying, no, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Even though Boeser's like had to start looking elsewhere. But then when the Canucks came back, like they were both happy, but he's, super buds with Garland. I guess Team America inside the Canucks dressing room, Quinn's part of that, which is great. So it was fantastic, but that's, yeah, it's things that I didn't want to think about. And I didn't like the optics. I didn't like the sound bites. I didn't like how it left things feeling. And that's all it was at that point. And so I'm glad he's back. He fills the hole. He's going to be a long-term Canuck, very cherished, and hopefully things go well from the next little while. But yeah, I'm glad he's back as well. But I did not like the process of it from when they stopped the contract talks and Alvin said, you won't believe the terrible offers I was getting for him. There's no market for this player. I'm like, holy crap. That felt like a huge misstep on Alvin's part, but that is what it is at that point. What do you think the Canucks' ideal scenario, given the UFAs, was? Because in my mind, there was not a lot that made sense because we needed to replace a Miller and we signed a Kane, who's a winger, that ate up $6 million. So it really left us in a bit of a lurch. So on two aspects that didn't make sense, the Kane signing with no salary retained and also sending a pick back, fourth is not a great pick. But what do you think the Canucks' actual plan was?
No, I mean, I don't know.
Right.
I think, there was just the dream scenario of getting Sam Bennett at the contract that he signed, his extension with Florida.
Yeah.
And after that, there wasn't much. There really wasn't much to do. I don't see this team being one free agent away from fixing what needs to be fixed anyways. So that's the challenge they have in front of them. Oh,
totally. Yeah. And that's a great point. There are many things to fix. The nice thing is I feel that the goalies are solid. If Demko can regain his health, it's an unbelievable pairing, if not one of the top 5 pairings in the league by far, easy. The defense is easily a top 8D in this league, I feel. The depth that they have, Quinn Hughes being an outlier, that changes a lot. But I think that they're solid there. Mm-hmm. So it's a matter of the role players, the bottom 6 doing their part. Now that we have some holes with Suter gone, so now it's a matter of who's going to fill that role, but then also who's going to fill the Miller role. So you're right. So we're minimum 2 moves away, or a couple of wild card lottery tickets cashing in for us here with a Ratu doing a great job, or if it's Assassin, or by some stretch Baines is able to make a difference. But we're still missing that, in theory, number 1 or number 2 center, depending on PD.
Yep. Yeah, it's the constant tug of war you have trying to build a team in the NHL. So they have a good core. They're missing a Miller / Horvat type player that we know what it looks like when we have it and everything's working well. So I don't see any immediate fix for that.
Yeah,
and that I think puts a ceiling on how well the team's going to do.
Looking at the list still, there's all that buzz the last 2 weeks on Roslovic, but my little outlier, because I had him in my long-term hockey pool, is Kuznetsov playing in Russia, coming back. That's a funny one, but you think you don't think for a 1-year deal to match Kane's deal in a weird season, do you think a Kuznetsov is a bad gamble?
I mean, probably. I don't see how that's going to help the Canucks, because you're not getting the player that won the cup in 2018. It's a great player, but yeah, I don't see the fit. It'd be fun, but
yeah,
I think I think that they have there's definitely a way that they want to approach building the team, but it's like I said, I think it's hard to get the game breakers, and everybody wants them. So yeah, I think they're going to have to eventually trade for a center, and it'll be something that the Canucks won't want to give up. But I think honestly their plan is to wait out the summer. Maybe they sign a Roslovic. That's not going to move the needle too much. He's a good player.
He's a good speedy forward, but he's a winger, and he's not a true center.
Yeah, he can play both, but he's not. Yeah, he's not a
puck distributor. He's more of a skate and shooter, kind of like how Horvat was, because Horvat wasn't a great distributor of the puck. He ended up becoming a shooter, and Roslovic is kind of like that in my mind, from what I've seen the last couple of years. Because I've also had him in my long-term pool for playoffs and hoping for points, and watching him be like, oh my gosh, okay. So he does not feel, in my mind, he does not feel what the Canucks need, but it's going to be patchwork at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the thing, is you aren't going to be able to sign away structural problems in your in your team. So you typically have to draft or trade. So good news is Florida's shown that if you pay attention, you can trade and solve your problems without a huge overpay, right? It doesn't have to be a Jack Eichel type trade.
Yeah.
Sam Bennett cost two draft picks. So they should be looking at what the next statistical underlying comparable is to a Bennett or to what they think they need, right? So that would be how I would approach it. Is you would be making some bets, hopefully not too expensive, on players that are up and coming, and like look at teams that have some really good center depth and see maybe who's in a third line role who could maybe be in a second line role, right? Because there is a real opportunity for growth in the league if you're smart about it.
Right.
So I think the mistake everybody makes is assuming that you're always going to get the final product on day one.
Yeah.
And that's great if you can do that. But a lot of times it takes a plan. Right? You have a plan for that role, that player, the position, the style, all of that has to come together. It's not just like, it's not EA hockey where you take the highest number overall, talent, skill, and throw all your draft picks and prospects at it. Fit and chemistry is a real thing.
So with that in mind, this is the last thing we'll talk about is Quinn Hughes, but it's a two-part question. So the ultimate question is what would you do with Quinn Hughes? But two, also part of that is what prospects are you willing to move right now? Of the ones that would be attractive to other teams, because the Mason Marchment rumors are around that he's available. What would you move to get a Mason Marchment of who's available for our prospects and who might be attractive to send the other way?
Well, I think Marchment already got traded, right?
Did he get traded?
Yeah, he got traded to Seattle.
No, that's a different Marchment. That's a Brian. That's a Mace. The Anaheim Marchment.
Oh, you're that's what's his name? It's not Marchment. It's
McTavish.
Is it McTavish? Mason McTavish.
Mason McTavish. My bad.
Yeah, I don't think. Well, one, I don't think they would trade him. I mean, but that's a good. I think McTavish is a good example of who you would try and get.
Right.
I think you would trade. You should be able to trade any prospect to make your team better, depending on your time frame.
Right.
Because there's, as you've seen, like building a team is so hard that there's no one player is going to fix everything for you. So you kind of have to like empty you have to think about like emptying the chamber, right? So you only have so many shots at this thing. So I would look at it in terms of like an honest conversation with Quinn Hughes, say, all right, what do you want? You want a 4-year contract? You want to retire a Canuck? You want to go year by year? Like what, see how things go. I think eventually he will want to play with his brothers. But that doesn't mean the minute he's a UFA, he's going to go to New Jersey. I don't, yeah, he could, but if he controls everything, then that might be important to him. I could very easily see Quinn Hughes signing like a 4-year contract.
Oh, really?
And, yeah, because you could say at that point, well, I've this is maybe only a few players in the league could do this, and they are playing with, they're gambling in terms of like cost certainty.
Right.
But yeah, like in the NBA, people take short contracts for max term and move around wherever they want. And you can see that that some of the players want to do that. It all depends. So, hockey's a little different because you can have one bad shift and your career is over. But at the same time, I think somebody in Quinn Hughes's position would value a plan. And if you can prove the plan to him, then maybe the need for flexibility is lessened. And then it's more about getting him, maybe top 3, top 5 paid players in the league or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to trade for you're not going to be able to swing a trade for both his brothers, right?
No.
So
No,
that's
I
not
don't
going to
think
happen. But what's the odds that him playing with his brothers on the Olympic team scratches the itch? Who knows, right? There's no guarantee that they all play together in New Jersey or somewhere else that they're going to have success. So I think you should run it like a business, though. I don't think you should force him to do anything he doesn't want to do, because he has all the leverage. He has most of the leverage, almost all of it. And yeah, like I would think that he would have a couple of things high on the list that he's looking forward to see, right? Because he's an intelligent hockey player, but he's going to have some thoughts on where the team needs some adjustment, some tweaks here and there. I don't think it's about like filling the team with all his best buddies, so he feels guilty if he's going to leave. Because then, I just don't think that he's going to do that. I think it's important for him to feel like he's going to be able to have his own legacy, though. But that doesn't mean he has to sign an 8-year contract.
Yeah. That's good. It's interesting. I hadn't thought about a shorter contract. You're generally always assuming the worst.
That's what Vancouver speculation always assumes the worst.
Well, but you're right. The NBA model might be and I actually heard an analyst say that they're starting to suggest shorter contracts, and you saying again about the NBA model, that just reminded me of that. And so
look at what Austin Matthews did, right? Everybody had the exact same conversation around Austin Matthews about the angst of him staying or going, and should we trade him? And he signed a 4-year contract. That to me is the model what Quinn Hughes would do. And I'm sure they all are paying attention. So he'll probably get a little bit more money than Austin Matthews did. Maybe not. But it's a 4-year contract with a no movement clause,
which is interesting because that was before. So is he going to year 2 now, or was last year 1 or year 2 of that contract? Expires in 2028, so -4, 2024.
So last year was the start of the 4-year contract.
Okay, so he's going to year 2. So interesting that the news, because only this year the news that the salary cap was going up by 30% in over 3 years came out. So I wonder if he had a sniff of that information before. It doesn't really matter, but yeah, you're right that 4-year model is interesting because, with the cap going up to 113 million in 3 years, does Quinn match the timing of that? I mean, that's very interesting.
I could see that happening. But if you take like there are just some players that will always take the max term, and they should, because like Austin Matthews is unique because I think he's a good enough and unique enough athlete to not have to worry about some freak accident. Like he knows what he's doing out there.
Right.
Because he doesn't play a really heavy game, right? He doesn't do a lot of contact, and that's not his style. Even though he's a physically a beast. Yeah, that's not his game style, right? Right. So yeah, you could probably do what he's doing, and then bake in the salary cap increases over those durations, and you end up with more money, more flexibility. If you don't like where the team is at, right? And 4 years is a long time in hockey. You can turn over your entire roster. Look at Florida in the last 4 years. Like 4 years before that to where they are now. The hockey. I think a lot of people don't appreciate there's like the expiry date on teams and players isn't always the same, and it's so unpredictable. So unless you want to never the Crosbys of the world where they play for one team for the rest of their careers, and like that's pretty rare, right? Very few people are going to have that that situation. But I think that seems like to be the more modern model. It's a little bit people would say it's like less loyal, but hockey players they have goals, right? And I don't think you should, like, teams own rights for so long in the current CBA that, like, I think you end up with less interesting situations with around the league because everybody can't move. Like the contracts are no movement clauses, or they're max. Like maybe if more teams got creative like Vegas, that's you'd see more interesting things. But yeah, I think for the very top, the top 20 players in the league, there's going to be people who just have that flexibility, and not everybody has to take it. Like, that's a personality thing.
Yeah. Boeser signed for 7, which is good for him because of the injury potential.
Well, if you have
history,
injuries, right? If you have injuries early on, you're going to approach things a lot differently. But when you can, like I said, like, I think you look at like Jack Hughes's contract. Like, if he could go back in time, I bet you he doesn't sign for a full 8 at that cap hit, knowing what he could be making right now. He should be making about $12 million.
Right.
So yeah, like it's good deals, but then I think at that point people are going to really cherish the flexibility that they can get.
Yeah, no, that's good call on that one. Because that was a lot of money at the time. And, so he signed it. He's 24 now. He signed it at age 20. Is that right? Wow. So he signed is it an 8x8 deal he did or something? Yeah,
they just didn't bridge him. They give him a typical bridge contract. So that's
going to be a hell of a team-friendly contract over the next couple of years. It's crazy. So obviously, I would assume your preference is to sign Quinn Hughes. You're willing to trade any prospect that you need to, which I think is smart because the Ely or DPD and the Willanders that are here are probably the most enticing prospects. The Canucks have a center problem. I think McTavish, not Marchment, fixes that at age 22. So I think that you move that. The secondary problem for Quinn Hughes, it's not going to be the dollar amount. It's, you're right. It's the team, but also that New Jersey will have an interesting problem that will be worse than Toronto's, with Jack, Luke, and Quinn all making top. Well, I guess, Jack Hughes he's going to level that out a little bit. But, when you make your cap team around just a couple of players, that's not tenable. It's not a scenario that gives you team success, because in order to move Quinn Hughes, they have to give up a lot, but they can't have 5 top salaries. Toronto couldn't do it with 4, and let alone having 2 of them as defensemen. So you really hamstring the rest of your team when you've got 5 massive salaries. The Nico Heishers of the world. When Simon Nimick gets ready for his contract, he's making minimum entry. They're going to have all sorts of problems if Quinn goes there. But I think moving heaven and earth to try and stop it is the first goal. But if it does happen, New Jersey's going to be in tough a little bit for, Luke Hughes alone. His contract's going to be massive.
Yeah, I think, it's hard to build a winner. So
right. And with Quinn is going to make, at this rate, he's going to be making $14 million minimum on his contract.
Yeah, I would think so, within, a range of something like that.
Well, the model of part of it is what Draisaitl signed for, which was 14, which meant McDavid was going to get about 15 or 16, but that was before the news of the salary cap going up. So you automatically do, let's call it a cost of living raise of 30%, because that's what the cap's going up. And Draisaitl signed a little bit too early. Can't remember how long his deal is, but McDavid's a huge problem for them. And them signing Bouchard, I heard interesting news about Bouchard that I think Carolina was going to offer sheet Bouchard and push the number from 9, which would have been more reasonable. But for the Oilers to have 2 $10 million defensemen is absolutely ludicrous. But that's not our problem. Don't care. But Quinn's going to be making $14-15 million guaranteed. So that's a problem for not a problem for us potentially, because but it will be a problem for Jersey. So.
Yeah, that's why we get paid the big bucks to manage teams.
exactly. Way above our pay grade is one of my the sayings that seems to be one of the most common things I say on this podcast. Any last thoughts? Anything that sparked as we were talking as we wrap up this episode?
No, just hope they figure it all out, and hope they can keep Quinn.
That's priority number one. I created the hashtag, but there is no other issue in my mind. Everything here is to solve a Quinn Hughes problem.
Yeah.
Even the Demko signing it may be a little bit high, but we might get LTIR relief on that because if he gets injured again, so it's a bit of a gamble. But any predictions, thoughts, or projections for this coming season?
No, I think I'll let them surprise me in either way. I don't want to be right. So
be pleasantly surprised versus riding hopes and expectations. Hey, we're Canuck fans, and we're a lot smarter version of Canuck fans as all this time has gone by because we've been beaten up pretty good over the years, and we're still here. So.
Well, we've seen all the iterations, so we'll see what the next one looks like.
You don't get much worse than last year, to be perfectly honest. I don't know if there's many NHL stories that match what happened to the Canucks, including the fall off in production. Right? Yeah. If those scenarios happened and we still played well and had results, then fine. But it didn't happen. There was no net gains out of that season for all that happened. So. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we got a draft pick in the first round, I guess. So
yeah, it looks okay. So we'll hope for him to be a star. Okay, that wraps it up for this episode. Thank you so much, Derek, for joining me. I've been meaning to do this for a long time, so thank you for joining the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll talk to you.
All right, talk to you later.
Thank you for listening to Canucks Only.
Canucks Only. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe.